Welcome to another episode of Live with Laura. I'm your host, Laura Hettiger. And friends, as we sit here in real time in late July, this conversation today is one that I have wanted to have since the very beginning of this podcast. It focuses on the Ronald McDonald House, St. Louis. And as we do sit here in real time, this is a thought no parent wants to have, but as we speak, there are children right here in the St. Louis area receiving life-saving care. How lucky are we to have the hospitals and the healthcare systems that we have? But a lot of those kiddos and their families do not live here in St. Louis. They are traveling sometimes hundreds, even thousands of miles from home to be here in our community to receive that life-saving care. In the meantime, what do their families do? Where do they stay? They stay right here in St. Louis near their child at the Ronald McDonald House, St. Louis. You can tell I am getting emotional about this because this is very, very personal to me. My dad stayed in a Ronald McDonald House for 2 weeks right after I was born, and this charity has been engraved in my heart since day one. And to get into the conversation about it, I am thrilled and honored to be joined by Jill Hogan, who is the VP of Marketing and Communications for Ronald McDonald House St. Louis, and also Chef Matt Borchardt, who has a very interesting story with the Ronald McDonald House that we will get into. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you for having us.
Thanks for having us. Happy to be here.
So to lay the groundwork, I always like to do this for people who are not familiar with the Ronald McDonald House St. Louis. What do you do?
Sure. Excuse me. Ronald McDonald House St. Louis provides a home away from home for families of seriously ill children. And we accomplish that across 2 houses, one in the Grove, one in West County on Mercy's campus. And we have 4 family rooms across 3 pediatric hospitals here in St. Louis. And we know that every family that walks through our doors is carrying more than we can imagine, and certainly more than we can see. And so we provide services that help alleviate some of the stressors that they might have without the Ronald McDonald House, such as, a place to stay, meals, whole family health, really. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And camaraderie.
Yeah, yes. A community that truly understands where, what they're going through. We have 92 rooms across our 2 houses that are at currently almost at capacity, if not at capacity. And so there's 92 families that we're helping through various illnesses and injuries. And so it is truly a community of people that understand what one another are going through.
I have 2 little ones, and whenever someone asks me, how are things? I say, right now, things are good. Mm-hmm. We are all one phone call away from potentially devastating, life-changing news. Mm-hmm. And when we talk about sick children, it's very sudden for a lot of people. Mm-hmm. You mentioned injuries. Heaven forbid something catastrophic happens in a car crash, or in my situation, there were no warning signs that I would need to be in a NICU. My hometown hospital didn't even have a NICU. Mm-hmm. The closest NICU was 200 miles away. Mm-hmm. And in a moment, families are faced with the decision to pack up everything, to waste that time, or just go. Mm-hmm. You guys are the just go landing place so often.
Yes. Yeah. It's, we have really good relationships with our hospital partners and the social workers at those hospitals. And so, a family can come in any given moment, like you said. You just never know what's going to happen, and sometimes life changes in an instant. And so, we're here for whoever walks through our doors, in whatever situation that they might be walking into. And it's very, very stressful, mm-hmm. and they're carrying the weight of the world and the weight of their families on their shoulders. And so we're there to provide care and hopefully some take some pressure off of what they're going through.
And Chef Matt, to borrow a phrase that Jill just said, anyone who walks through their doors, you have walked through their doors many, many times. And it sounds like over the years you've worn a few different hats as you've entered those doors. Please take me back to one of the first times that you walked into the Ronald McDonald House, St. Louis.
Sure, yeah. Many hats, it's true. We were expecting the birth of our second child. We're adoptive parents. And we got the call that the birth mom was in labor in the Gulf Coast of Florida. So we hurried and got to the Gulf Coast, and we were excited. We were there for a few days, and birth mom was induced into labor, but did not deliver the baby, and was discharged from the hospital after a couple days. So we had nowhere to go. We didn't know what to do. We didn't know if we should come back to the St. Louis area or what to do. And we called our social worker, and she said, "I'll call you back in 5 minutes." And she called back literally 4 minutes later and said, "You're going to drive over to Tallahassee and stay at the Ronald McDonald House until the baby comes." And we're like, "We're staying at McDonald's." Like, what? We didn't know what we were doing. And, we did. We drove over and walked in the door, and it changed our lives forever, my wife and I. So, it's, like you get emotional talking about it. So it was kind of meant to be, and here I am 16 years later, as the chef. So pretty crazy.
How did it change your lives forever?
We saw all the letters on the walls from the parents who were grateful to have it, saw what the mission was and what it meant, for others. And my wife and I are both, I think we are in the service industry to some degree, or we provide services. And so it was our, thought right away to start giving back, So, and we were in a unique situation. Ronald McDonald House provides housing for sick children. Mm-hmm. As Jill mentioned, that's our primary goal, our primary mission, but we didn't have a child. Or we had an older child, but it was at home, but we were awaiting the birth of a child. So we were in a unique spot, so we didn't have to go to the hospital during the day like most of the families, right? Mm-hmm. So we spent our days cleaning, cooking, yard work, whatever it was around the house. And we spent a solid week there and doing whatever we could, for the house. And then so our son, Sam, was born, and he was born healthy, and we got to come home. And ironically, we had another unfortunate experience. When Sam was 7 weeks old, we found him unconscious in his crib. And I did walk in to the couch to enjoy watching a Blues game, and my wife had to resuscitate him until the paramedics arrived. And subsequently, he spent a few weeks at Children's Hospital in NICU, or the PICU, I guess, at that time. Mm. And so it was a pretty emotional time, and we didn't leave the hospital for 3 weeks, and we utilized the family room, on a daily basis. Family would come down, have dinner, would take a shower, take a nap, get a snack, laundry. I mean, we were there literally. We didn't leave for 3 weeks, and then so we had these two experiences like back to back with the Ronald McDonald House, and so we were discharged on just before Christmas Eve in 2011 or 2010, and January 2011 I called Ronald McDonald House and said, "My name's Matt, how can I help?" And so I've been involved ever since.
My heart is bursting with so many aspects of this, because I didn't think about adoptive families.
Right.
And what a beautiful gift the Ronald McDonald House gave you in that vulnerable and unique time too.
Sure.
And then, my gosh, you get home and Sam, just 7 weeks later, and it seems like God is once again putting the Ronald McDonald House not only right there, but kind of forcing you to look at it.
Yeah.
And then to be discharged, but just before Christmas, your first Christmas with your new baby. I bet even though while you were present with him and your older child, your mind was still with the families who were in the hospital for Christmas.
Sure. Yeah, it was a trying time for sure. Mm-hmm. But, we were, found ourselves in a fortunate situation.
Mm-hmm.
Sam's about to turn 16 this fall, and is a pain in the butt,
As he should be.
If he's listening, he'll know, But
He's probably thinking the same about you, too.
He does. He tells me all the time, actually. Funny you say that. But, we were in a really fortunate to have the Ronald McDonald House. We were there fortunate to have the house that we stayed in. We were fortunate to have the family room. And, it became my goal, my personal goal, and my wife, immediately to give back. Mm-hmm. And so we started, as a chef, I started donating my skills in their fundraisers, to donate like a chef in the home experience, Mm-hmm. And one thing led to another. And then a number of years later, I was asked to design a kitchen for the new Ronald McDonald House they were building. And then I agreed to do that, and I had a restaurant at the time and things, I didn't even think about taking the job,
Mm-hmm.
And then they said, well, now you designed it. Now we need a chef. And so it was like I dropped my restaurant immediately. I sold my restaurant immediately without even thinking about it. I said yes when I was asked to take the job, I said yes before I even asked my wife. I didn't have to because I knew she would support it.
Yes.
And we had a successful restaurant at the time and sold it immediately, took the job, and it was like, kind of meant to be for me to some degree.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So
it came really full circle.
It's beautiful. And for our longtime listeners, they're thinking, okay, for our more experienced listeners, we'll say maybe slightly older, they're probably thinking, where are these located? Because they knew there was one on West Pine, but now there's a beautiful brand new one on
Shoto, right in the Grove neighborhood. It's 4321 Shoto Avenue, and it's just across the highway from the Central West End, the Cortex. It sits right in between Cardinal Glennon Children's Hospital and St. Louis Children's Hospital, so right off the highway. Yeah.
And that is the kitchen you designed.
Yes. So, not to be forgotten, we have 4 family rooms in another house here in St. Louis. So we have a total of 6 locations, and the Grove location is fortunate enough to have a much larger footprint. We have 72 rooms there, a full commercial kitchen, and I got to design the kitchen and lead the culinary program there, where we provide not only housing for the families on a nightly basis, but we try to feed them well while they're there as well. It's one less thing they have to worry about.
Absolutely, because their focus needs to be on their child as their child does receive that life-saving medical care. You talked about the West County location that's right there on Mercy's campus. When you decided after Sam was better that you were going to donate, you offered your services in such a beautiful way through auctions. Jill, before we hit our first commercial break, just in case people need to hit pause, what are some other ways people listening right now can help your mission?
Sure. There is no shortage of opportunity to volunteer in several different capacities at either house or one of our 4 family rooms. We also have a young professionals society. It's called the Red Shoe Society. So if you're in that 20, 30-year age range, get involved. It's a great networking opportunity, give back, serving the house and our family rooms, and also expanding your network at a really, kind of cool time in your life. Roundup at McDonald's. It's such an easy way. That is such, it's small change here and there when you're rounding up in an app or at the kiosk, but it has such a big impact on what we're able to do and how we're able to provide more services for families. Corporate, if you work for an organization, check and see if they do matching donations. Some corporations do matching for hours, matching dollars for hours, and matching dollars for dollars given. So that's pretty awesome. And then we have wonderful community partners that I could go on and on about. But one example of that right now is if anybody out there is looking for going to be either selling a house or buying a house, we've got a partnership with Reese Nichols Real Estate Agency here in St. Louis. They have Gold Key agents. And for every house that is bought or sold through one of their Gold Key agents, a portion of the money goes right to Ronald McDonald House St. Louis. And last week when I talked to them, we're like edging towards $20,000 that's going to be earned this year just through that program alone from April through October. So there's many other opportunities too that I haven't even talked about. So I encourage everybody to visit rmhcstl.org, and there's a tab for how to get involved, and you can learn all of the great ways to get involved and donate.
I am already so inspired, and for people like Matt and me, we're talking about we'll never be able to pay back the kindness that the Ronald McDonald House showed our families in our most vulnerable moments. But we can continue to pay it forward by having these conversations and the services you have offered. And as you're sitting at home, I encourage you to think about the phone call or the situation that could potentially change you and your child's life forever. And heaven forbid, or I hope you never get that phone call and you're never experienced with the situation of rushing to one of our great hospitals because your child is sick or is injured in a very serious way. But if that happens, know that the men and women and volunteers at the Ronald McDonald House, not only the homes, but also those family rooms, are there to pick you up, give you a hug, and be with you in that journey. And now is the time, as Jill just mentioned, check out their website, rmhcstl.org,
Yes,
to learn so much information and pay it forward. We're going to hit our first break. When we come back, we are going to get into more stories about people and families that the Ronald McDonald House St. Louis has helped, and share more ways that you can help this amazing nonprofit. We'll be right back with more of Live with Laura. It truly is an honor that you are spending part of your time with us here on Live with Laura. I am thrilled to be sitting across from Jill Hogan, the VP of Marketing and Communications for Ronald McDonald House St. Louis, and also Chef Matt Borchardt.
You got it. Yep.
Who not only was a Ronald McDonald House family, but also is now the chef, and you design the kitchen, and oh my gosh, you lead the culinary program. You do it all for this organization.
Oh, I don't know about that. We have a wonderful team, so it takes a team. But I enjoy what I do, and it's certainly a rewarding job for sure.
And you can feel that in the emotion that you've already used to speak about this organization. Sure. Right before we had our commercial break, we were talking about ways that you can support Ronald McDonald House St. Louis. And I know some people don't have the time to volunteer right now. And we also know it's really hard to make ends meet right now.
absolutely.
There are little everyday things, though, that people can do that really add up. Let's focus on if you like to have a soda or I like the bubbly waters. What can we do with those cans, specifically what's on top of them?
Yep, the tab tops. So we have an event every year called Tab Top Pandemonium, and we partner with Diddy and Orf, which is a recycling organization out in St. Peters. And so throughout the year, it's a really fun way that families, school, classrooms, church groups, you name it, can get involved and save those every time you open up a soda can, a seltzer, a beer, what have you. Save those pop tops. And at the end of the year, you can really turn them in anytime. But at our Tab Top Pandemonium event, you can bring them. We weigh them in like these big industrial weigh centers, and all of the Diddy and Orf then converts weight to dollars, and all of that gets brought back to Ronald McDonald House St. Louis. So it's really fun the day of the event. We have some fun activities and things like that, but to just see the families drive through this massive weigh station, and I mean, they're unloading bins and bins and bins of tab tops that they've collected, from all aspects of their life for an entire year. And it's schools getting competitions with one another, and brothers and sisters can have little competitions. And so it's a great way to give back that is incorporating something that you probably are using at your house or your school or your work anyway. So, yeah.
A little personal story. My very first taste of the nonprofit world was when I was about 6 or 7 years old. And my parents found out about the Pop Tab program after my dad had stayed at the Ronald McDonald House. And my mom taught special education in our school district. And she encouraged her kids' families to collect the tabs, and they would come in and work on counting each day with the pop tabs. And that's how they learned basic math. And then we would put them in the milk jugs and load up our Ford Explorer and make the trip, the 200-mile trip, to the Ronald McDonald House. And I remember the pride that my sister and I had when we popped open that Ford Explorer and all of those milk jugs of pop tabs were there.
Yeah, it's pretty spectacular to see, and what a fun experience for
Everyone.
for everyone to get involved with. We actually had one of our guest service staff members who works every Sunday at our West County house. He's retired, and he and a bunch of his buddies just did a World Cup. Like, they rented this big van, or it wasn't a van, it was bigger than a van, like a tour bus. And they rode around all over the country going to these World Cup
Games.
premiere parties and games and things like that, watch parties, that's what I was trying to get at. And they collected tab tops. So one of them created a soccer ball, like these soccer balls on a 3D printer, and they went around collecting tab tops at this. So it's like combining fun and education and with a give back, and like especially when you have kids involved, and like teaching them the importance of giving back in such a simple way that really matters.
And even when you go to a hotel, I do this all the time, and I don't feel bad about it. I take every single toiletry that they leave out. I don't travel much, but I feel like if I've paid for the hotel room, that's a given.
Yeah.
And I take it all. And my husband, when we first got married, he's like, "What are you doing? You brought your own shampoo." I go, "Oh, I know this isn't for me." He's like, "Who's it for?" So we're going to take all this to the Ronald McDonald House because, again, when life changes in an instant, you don't think to grab your shampoo. And if you're there for weeks, potentially months, just having those extras on hand.
Yep.
And that's something that people can do anytime they stay in a hotel.
Absolutely. We have, when families check in, and really any time that they need it, we have a general store on our main floor in the Grove House, and then I think it's on the main floor in the West County House also, that you can go into, and there's drawers in there for toiletries and things like that you can grab anytime you need it. We also have, from hotels is a great opportunity, but we also have Amazon wish lists on our website. So you can go to rmhcstl.org, and it's under ways to give back, but you can get to the wish list and you can make purchases for those kinds of toiletries and snacks and things like that directly for our houses and family rooms.
Matt, I want to bring it back over to you. You lead the culinary program at the Grove House. Why is it important for families who have maybe spent all day at the hospital to be able to come back to one landing place and have a good and healthy meal?
Yeah, I mean, it's extremely important. Food is kind of the center of all of what we do, right? And, and I can attest, being at the hospital all day and hearing those beeps and, and the rounds with the doctors and stuff, and it can get tiring, and it's emotional and it's hard. So, when a family does that and they leave at 6 a.m, they can, we make sure they have a yogurt parfait or a breakfast burrito on their way out, orange or a banana or something. And then when they come home, back, I say home, but when they come back to the house, at 10 o'clock at night, they can warm up, a chicken breast and mashed potatoes or, whatever it might be if they don't make it back for the dinner served at 6 o'clock, So food is, really important, in everyone's life, but we want to make sure that's one less thing that these families have to worry about. There's enough going on. They don't have much control over their situation. And so, providing a meal for them or snacks or whatever it is we can do, whether it's at the family rooms or the two houses, it just makes it, one less thing for the families to worry about and have to go through.
Something else that you have expanded, though, is volunteer opportunities through cooking meals for families. Will you please explain that part of this organization?
Absolutely. So we have a meals, we call it Meals from the Heart program, and really it operates two different ways because of our two different houses. They're a little bit structured differently, but at our West County house, we invite meal groups to come in and prepare a meal, a dinner every night of the week. Those groups sign up and they do all the shopping. They create their own menu, do all their shopping, bring all the groceries into the house, come into a beautiful kitchen and prepare the meal and serve, up to 20 families at the West County house. And we offer those opportunities every evening for families or groups to sign up for. And at the Grove, it's slightly different because it's such a larger operation. We have this beautiful commercial kitchen, and the groups come in. They don't have to do the shopping and the menu planning. I take care of that.
Thank you.
And so the groups get to come in, and it's almost like a little, I try to make an educational component to it while they come in, and we prepare collectively as a group a meal for the families, and then that group will help serve the families on a buffet-style menu most evenings. So the groups, really, the families like to see the groups come in and participate. The groups really like to participate because they, are giving back, and I think it brings everyone a little closer to, our mission and what we do. I think there's like Mary Beth and I, when we first walked into Ronald McDonald's, we had no idea what we were doing, right? We had no idea where we're going. And by bringing individuals and groups into the house, it really puts them, in touch with what we do and how hard it can be and how grateful it can be at the same time.
And that's what I was hoping we would talk about in this conversation, too. It is so easy for us to get stuck in the things that just frustrate us and annoy us in the day-to-day.
Sure.
The person who cut us off in traffic, the person who put me on hold for 45 minutes. Those are all easy things to deal with. Frustrating, annoying, but in the grand scheme of life, not that big of a deal. You walk into a place where you are helping to prepare a meal for a family who is dealing with the unimaginable. You don't only walk out that day with perspective that it's probably not that bad what's frustrating me. You keep that perspective with you.
Well, I mean, I'm not joking when I said it changed my life, and it did. And we see it all the time with especially with the volunteers that come in the house. We have volunteers that have been volunteering at the house for 30 and 40 years, and we don't take that lightly. There's a reason why they continue to come year after year. Because they, they know they're doing the world a good, favor.
When we say families, I've been thinking a lot about parents, and I'm sure our listeners and viewers have too. But we also need to point out that these homes are also open to siblings. When I walk into the home at West County and your door handle is Ronald McDonald's huge shoes, like the size of my arm, it makes you smile. And every time I open that door, I think this was put here to make a kid smile too.
Yeah, I mean, the kids, it's fun getting to know the families, and many of our families are with us for months at a time. Many months. And so for those of us that are like family facing, we really get a bond with the families, and then you develop a bond with the siblings.
Right.
Because maybe the patient is still in the hospital, and then so the sibling is with mom, dad, family, grandparents, whatever it might be. And so knowing the siblings makes it fun, and then when you get to see the child come back to the house for the first time, maybe after discharge, and everyone's together, those are moments that, you certainly don't take lightly, but,
And let's talk about one of those moments that stick out to both of you that you've seen where a child is discharged from the hospital, best day ever, and they do come back to the home maybe to collect their belongings. What are those situations and days like?
Exciting and joyful because, there's a lot of stress that's actively happening in the house because there's families that are staying there, but there's also the families are celebrating birthdays and health milestones and health journey milestones as well. And so just last week I ran into a family that was back for, I think it was an 11-month checkup, and it was like there's like one more to go before this child is cleared. And the mom is just so joyful and just so happy to come in. And I sat in the dining room with them for a little bit, and they were just talking about Chef Matt, and they were actually they were gonna stay an extra like few hours so they could eat dinner because Chef Matt was preparing lava cake, and like it was like they had 3 kids with them, and they just love Chef Matt. I mean, you're being a little humble with yourself. I feel like you're a celebrity around the house. They love him and gravitate towards him. But to see this family that came back last week, and they're just like, I think the mom said, we've got one more visit, and once she's cleared after that, then we're going to throw a rager. I mean, so it's just, but also in that same conversation, she was talking about, being mindful and respectful of the other families that are there, because the families that are there right now are experiencing what her family experienced, like probably over a year now at this point. And it's just that uncertainty and stress. But to see them come back when it's a good situation is really special. I don't know if you have any stories.
I know exactly the family you're speaking of, and and it's amazing when you do get to see the families celebrate the good, but. There is the part of the job that, not everything works out the way you want it to all the time, and so we, learn how to deal with those situations as well, and be mindful of those situations while we're in a house. So like Jill was alluding to, you want to celebrate the good and for this family, but the family right across the dining room may not be is in a great spot. So you always have to be mindful of those things and still connect with those families as well, and and it's a wonderful place to be honest with you.
And it is so important to keep that perspective. It could be the best day of a family's life,
right?
And it could be another family is about to have a child go into an open heart surgery or a major cancer surgery, brain surgery, whatever the case may be. And it takes really amazing volunteers to be able to walk that line of celebration and also maybe just be a sounding board or just literally be there and offer a prayer with those families.
We are good listeners, and that's part of my job, all of us. I mean, it's just to listen to the families, let them talk, let them explain to you what's going on or explain your situation and just, just listen to them. So it's an important part of the job.
It is, and it's, we have an amazing family services team and that supports our families in the houses and across our family rooms. And just to, as Matt was saying, just to be a listening ear, because everybody truly that walks through our doors, family and staff included, walks through carrying things that we can't see. We all have things going on in our lives, and it may not be as acute as what our families are going through, but we just as a organization, and we try to have a culture that is caring and compassionate and giving everybody grace, because you might come in after having somebody cut you off in traffic and you're like, "Rrr," and it does, what we do certainly does put things in perspective, but it doesn't change the fact that you might walk in with, a kind of disgruntled. And so just the fact of, it's why I love working there. It is just a place of grace and compassion on so many different levels.
And every time I've walked in and met your volunteers and your employees, I got a sense that they wanted to be there.
Sure.
Yeah.
And they were needed.
That's the biggest difference, I feel like. I mean, our volunteers, they want to be there, I mean, one of my staff members, was a volunteer. And she started as a volunteer, and I wanted to be there and still wants to be there. And became part of the team, because she wanted to be there, as a volunteer. So, and I don't think that's uncommon. Like I said, volunteers for 30, 40 years, there's a reason why.
And you were volunteering. Our head,
head
of operations was volunteering before
right.
he took on his role as well. So it's a place. One of our board members just said a couple weeks ago, I was having a conversation with him, and he said, this place can be like it's infectious, like it's like contagious
in a good way.
In a good way,
yes.
Of course, yeah. But just once you get involved, you want to stay. We have 900 active volunteers, and we always need more volunteers. But these are people that continue to come back again and again and again and serve in different capacities.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
But even though you have 900 strong, I'm sure you would gladly take many
Absolutely.
more.
Yes, 100%. Yep.
We are going to take our final commercial break, and as we do that, I encourage you to share this conversation with anyone that you think would benefit from learning about different opportunities and ways to help others. We all say, oh, I wish there was something I could do. There is plenty that you can do at the Ronald McDonald House, St. Louis, rmhcstl.org. When we come back, we are going to get into some of the statistics of just how massive this global charities reaches. I was blown away. So stay tuned. More of Live with Laura right after this. We have a few more minutes here together on Live with Laura, and if you are listening to this in real time, the time is 11:10 on a Tuesday. My stomach is growling, and you know what sounds really good to me? McDonald's nuggets. And every time I go to the McDonald's here at Westport, by the way, nicest employees at that one, obsessed with that one, I always round up. Because I know that extra change, maybe it's close to $1, maybe it's even 10 cents, will go back to funding the mission of the Ronald McDonald House.
Yeah. It all goes back to Ronald McDonald House. So it's such a big part of who we are. For every dollar that is rounded up, 80 cents comes to in the St. Louis area. 80 cents comes to Ronald McDonald House, St. Louis, and then Global gets the rest to help support all of us across the globe, actually. So
I am so glad you brought up that statistic. I had no idea it was that much that stays right here.
Yes.
That makes me feel even better about the McNuggets I'm going to have later. Let's continue to talk globally, because we've been focusing on the 2 homes and the 4 family rooms here in St. Louis. But my gosh, you do this work in 60 countries?
Yeah, there's 250 chapters across 60 countries. So I can't speak to all of their individual facts and figures and statistics, but it's like a million, just shy of 1 million families served across the globe, and it is truly across the globe. So,
and it's such a beautiful reminder in this time where we feel like sometimes we don't know how to relate to people who are not like us, or maybe who were not born here in America. This is the common equalizer. If there is a sick child, anyone can have the empathy for that family, that they should want to stay close, and they should be able to stay close to that child as they receive that treatment.
You know, we serve here in St. Louis because we do have such great pediatric health care. We partner with other organizations in St. Louis. There's a World Pediatrics that we partner with, and they bring children to the United States for certain specific treatments. And so while 88% of the families that we serve are from the greater St. Louis area and surrounding areas, the rest are from outside of our area. So last year, so in 2025, we served 31 states and 19 countries.
Wow.
Children from, or families of children that are ill from that method. 38 states and 19 countries.
Just last week, we had families from, I want to say, for 5 different continents and like 8 different countries.
Last week?
Just last week in the house at the Grove. So it's pretty, I mean, when global is an understate. I mean, we here in St. Louis, we have families from all around the world, like I said. But also, what's cool is we have some internal communications that we get from a global, and they tell us about what's happening at the houses in Indonesia or the Philippines or Kazakhstan or, South America. I mean, so it's just, seeing, and I'm like, hey, we do the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like, oh my gosh, they're rounding up too over there. Or, the happy meal day or whatever it might be. We're all doing it all around the world.
And I would have to imagine it's another sense of pride for how truly great our healthcare system, the physicians, the nurses, the entire staff, that people are traveling from all these countries on a weekly basis to get their treatment right here.
Yep.
Yeah.
Chef Matt, I don't know you well, but I'm going to guess if you know that a family is coming from maybe a different country and they would like a taste of home, would you be willing to try a recipe?
Sounds like you know me well.
Yeah.
So, yes, I mean, I do. I try to incorporate different cuisines into the menu. I want them to feel like at home. We have a little comment box, or suggestion box. I really take a lot of heart into. In fact, I wrote the August menu upcoming completely from our suggestion box of things that family want, all 30 days. Are things that people had written into the suggestion box. So I do try to make sure that there's a taste of home, if you will, when these families are, not at home for wherever that may be.
Yes, because you want them to feel like, even though it's not their actual home, that they still are in a very special place that we call home.
That's why I call it all the time. I mean, I alluded to it earlier. When the families come home, it is, it's not like, it is their home away from home, so.
The Ronald McDonald House Charities is over 50 years old, 45 years here in St. Louis.
Yes.
What do you see the future of this organization?
We're going to continue to serve more families and find, better ways to continue serving them. This year we created a transportation program. Some of our families have transportation insecurities. And so we created a transportation program. We now have a shuttle that takes families from our houses, to the different hospitals around St. Louis. And that's just one example. So we'll continue as we continue, work through our strategic planning and building out where we're going into the future. We'll continue to add things like the transportation program. We have it is a whole family journey. Like once if a child is sick or injured, the whole family is experiencing that. And so we've implemented, there's animal therapy programs. We have, we partner with the Missouri Botanical Garden, and they come in and do some horticulture stuff. There's yoga. We have yoga classes now that the families can participate in, and just mental health is health, and these families are going through a lot of stress, and so we just are constantly trying to think of new and innovative ways to reduce stress. So the future looks like serving more families in better and unique ways.
The evolution of this charity has been really fun to watch, and especially with the transportation. I'm going to level with you. I am so impressed by what happens at Barnes and Children's and Cardinal Glennon and SLU Hospital. It's also really overwhelming as a St. Louisan to even think about navigating all the parking garages, because the campuses are huge.
Yep.
So even taking that out, to know all you have to do is get on the shuttle and they're taking you right to the door.
And imagine if you don't speak English well,
Yes.
Or, it just, from, a whole nother side of the world where, it can be challenging. So.
You two seem so excited about what you get to do each day. When you leave the home at the end of the day, what things are you thinking about?
It's good.
Good question.
Probably what's on the menu for tomorrow. First off,
Spoken like a
what do
true
I
chef.
have, what do I have to do tomorrow?
Yeah.
I do reflect. I have a 20-minute drive home every night, so there is some time to reflect on, what you saw or what you may have experienced throughout the day. Like I said, a lot of times it's good, sometimes it's not. So, you get that time to reflect on, what you went through for the day and what you saw, and, there's a lot to hang your hat on, for sure.
I believe in gratitude, and just being grateful just brings like better thing, positive breeds positive type stuff. And so just to get in the car, I've got about a 15-minute drive home. It's not too far, but to just kind of give some thought about the day. And it is that perspective of these families are going through something, the unimaginable. And so to just be grateful for my life, and be grateful, honestly, to be able to experience this, as a staff member of Ronald McDonald House St. Louis is special. Like, it just feels really good to be able to come into work and do something good for humanity.
Yes, that matters.
Yeah.
And the perspective that both of you at the end of the day are driving to your home.
Yes.
And the families that you just left.
Yep.
They aren't, and some don't know when they will be able to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
We talked about the future. I understand October is a big month.
Yeah.
What is happening?
Yeah. So Ronald McDonald House Global, including St. Louis, is going through a global rebrand. So new logos, new tagline, and we'll have a new website. October 15th, we'll have a new website that is, speaks to our families and our donors, and all of the great things that we do, and just, messaging in a way that is geared towards like how we'll be messaging things in the future, and it's our president RJ always says it's an evolution, not a revolution. So it's evolving. The logo is the logo, but it's evolving into more of a inclusive logo that it's the house with the heart. I've got it on my shirt here. It's the house with the heart in the center, which just really represents that our families are at the heart of everything that we do at Ronald McDonald House. So. So you'll start to see the new logo around, and that doesn't mean that McDonald's is going away and Ronald McDonald is going away, but you'll just see a different logo.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Thank you.
On the new rebrand and the evolution, not the revolution.
Yes.
And good luck to Sam as he turns 16.
Sure.
I'm sure you will be reflecting this fall on what life looked like 16 years ago, and before you had ever even heard of the Ronald McDonald House.
Yeah, there was a lot of unknown, So a lot of similarity between, what I went through and what our families go through every day. So.
Well, thank you both for the gift of your time. Jill Hogan and Chef Matt Borchardt. What a treat. Oh, my God. And goodness. Oh, my goodness. I don't let my little boy say the other words. So goodness, I apologize. This has been so powerful, and I hope it opens some of your eyes, because you go by McDonald's everywhere. You've done a really good job being everywhere. Think a little bit more when you see the golden arches, the heart that is behind that, with this amazing, amazing charity that is helping families every single minute of every single day. We are so lucky that Ronald McDonald House St. Louis is here in our community, serving so many people. This has been a treat. And friends, until next time, thank you for listening, thank you for learning, and thank you for being Live with Laura.